20 years on and the emotions here were as raw as ever.
The sound of silence. Liverpool, Sheffield and Nottingham come to a standstill at 6 minutes past 3.
And the players who can't forget. Bruce Grobbelaar's haunting memories of the fans who were crushed immediately behind his goal.
People were asking me to try and help them because their faces were right up against the fence. But the indentation of the mesh against their face was so deep that it could actually scar for life.
Good evening and welcome to North West Tonight. This is the world-famous Kop at Anfield, seen as some historic and heroic moments. It is the spiritual home for all Liverpool fans. And this afternoon, a staggering 28,000 people sat in these stands right around the whole ground to remember the 96 who died at Hillsborough 20 years ago today. Some of those families and fans would have occupied these seats every year since the tragedy, when men, women and children perished in front of live TV cameras.
And outside the stadium here, you can see hundreds of people arrived today to lay their floral tribute. Not just Liverpool fans, there's a Manchester United shirt, Everton fans too. All this by the Hillsborough Memorial, where the names of 96 victims are etched into marble to be remembered forever. The youngest victim, just 10 years old. And today all their names were read out, one by one, inside the stadium, in what was a moving and at times emotionally charged ceremony.
For many of those families, time has stood still. Some will never come to terms with losing a loved one who had simply gone out one Saturday afternoon to watch a football match, an FA Cup semi-final, played at a neutral ground in Sheffield. Tonight, we bring you a special programme focusing on that terrible tragedy, trying to explain just why, to so many people, it is still so important.
It's so important, in fact, that in the centre of Liverpool today, everyone, including all the transport, came to a silent standstill at 6 minutes past 3, the very moment 20 years ago when the referee blew his whistle and ended the match, and the true horror of the Hillsborough disaster came to light. Dave Guest now on today's event.
They arrived in their thousands this afternoon, the Anfield faithful gathering to remember lives lost at Hillsborough.
I mean, you just have to look at the tribute to the people driving past to pay them respect. I think it's everything was wrong today as it was that night.
In 20 years, we have to come and pay my respects to the people who lost their lives here.
For Liverpool's Lord Mayor, Steve Rotherham, today would be especially poignant. He was at Hillsborough that April afternoon in 1989.
People starting to climb over the fences, and then I saw somebody get onto their feet onto the pitch and collapse. And I thought, this is a bit strange. This is not just about people trying to make a bit more space for themselves. Something serious has obviously gone wrong.
And so this afternoon, players, past and present, fans, old and young, even opponents, came together to remember.
Philip Hammond.
Sarah Louise Hicks.
At 6 minutes past 3, we remember in silent thanksgiving those we love and who live forever with angels and with the company of heaven.
The silence was observed not only at Anfield, but across the city and beyond. In Sheffield and in Nottingham too. At the end of the silence, the church bells of Liverpool rang out 96 times. And 96 red balloons were released into a leaden sky.
anniversary every year since 1989, but never before has the crowd turned out on this scale. The people of Liverpool were determined to show today that they'll always remember the disaster of that April day and that they'll never forget its victims. Day guests, North West Tonight, Anfield.
We were there, weren't we? It was really hard not to get a lump in your throat. And just after today's service, I caught up with Trevor Hicks. He and his then wife Jenny lost both their daughters, Vicky and Sarah, that day. I asked him what was going through his mind during that 2-minute silence.
Well, obviously, I'm doing my job as the president, trying to do a good job on the day, but the silence, and particularly when Sarah and Vicky's names are called, those are my moments, because inside I'm still a grieving father.
And what kind of things go through your mind? It's so hard for anyone else to understand.
Well, I've said on many occasions that one of the things I liked the least about Hillsborough was it was such a waste of talent. I mean, I had 2 lovely girls, both fairly bright, both academically able, and it's always been my view that they would make a contribution to the world as well as make a good life for themselves. And obviously Hillsborough denied them and me of that.
Oh, how did you feel when the crowd started shouting justice for the 96 during Andy Burnham's speech?
Well, I felt a bit sorry for him, if I may say. I mean, I'm not normally sorry for politicians. They deserve what they get, usually. And don't hold them in high regard either. But, you know, he is saying a lot of the things that we agree with, that there should be no return to standing. So we felt sorry for him, but there again, he would have gone away with a very strong message from 28,000 people.
And the fight for an inquiry continued, in your opinion?
Well, we don't know now, because as you heard me say, apparently yesterday, Sheffield admitted full responsibility for the first time in 20 years.
And just finally, what do you take away from today?
I love Sarah and Vicky to bits.
A man of great composure there. Later on in the programme we'll be hearing from the players who were there that day, including one who was nearer to the fans than any other.
But first we're going to go back to Manchester and to Annabelle Tippin, who has the rest of the region's news.